Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. Apologies for being a little bit late this evening. We're just waiting for Leigh. He's got a few technological gremlins, but will be with us imminently. So what's on the agenda tonight? Okay, I've asked the question: style over substance or substance over style? That's the question we're asking tonight, prompted by a more combative style of play and a 7-point haul from our last three matches. Conor Rawlinson, Dion Kelly-Evans, Harry Arter, all adding steel, know-how, nous, call it what you will. A bold statement from me. This recent change, enforced as it is, gives me more grounds for optimism that we have what it takes to be successful to the end of the season and get through the playoffs. Your thoughts on that, please. 2 seaside trips coming up on the road, Southend and Torquay. And I'll have a dabble at answering my own question. I wager definitely needs to be more substance than style at both of those two grounds. Elsewhere, Magpie Circle competition winner Stephen Silver joins my son at the club's player sponsorship training session tomorrow. You'll see a few photos and a bit of video from that as Ian Birchinall gives all the various people a rundown on his coaching methods and a chance to watch training. Excellent initiative from the club. A battling point from Chesterfield. Your thoughts and views as Leigh Curtis joins us right on cue. Fully recovered-ish from his bout of COVID. I had a COVID test 10 minutes before we started tonight because I feel bloody terrible. But I'm negative and we will grind on and get through it. Welcome, Leigh.
Good evening.
Okay, plenty to go. Cool, blimey. There must be about 30 observations. Evening to Ian Birchinall, Duncan Conry, Chris Gosling, Malcolm Shearston, Dale Pikett, Jurgen Halligan. Didn't hear you or see you on your Harley on Saturday, Jurgen. Derek Gill. And we will then go into some thoughts and conversations, picking up on some of the points that people are making. While you're all in such a happy keyboard mood, let's just have a straw poll, please. Fingers on keyboards. Your man of the match. Jaden Richardson, I think, got it from the sponsors. Who was your man of the match on Saturday? Not an easy one. Who was your MOM Saturday, Leigh?
I thought there was two choices. Either Jaden Richardson, I thought had a really good game, plenty of pace. I thought he gave Chesterfield numerous problems. I think the one thing with him is I sometimes think he can improve his ball in the final third. If you look at the chances that he's had in recent weeks, and sometimes he's crossing, but the pace and the quality and the skill he's got, and he's got great endeavour as well. I thought he was excellent on Saturday. And I also thought, despite the miss, I thought Carl Wootton had an excellent game as well up front. So I would say those two, and probably Conor Rawlinson, I thought were the three standout players. Dion Kelly-Evans played well. To be honest, they all had fairly decent games, in fairness.
Yeah, I thought it was a difficult one. I would have probably gone for Dion. Other people, Dale Pikett says Dion, Callum Frankton, Lees, Arter, Matt Cook, Chicks.
Chicks had a very good game, yeah.
Yeah, Ian Bircham says Jaden had his worst game so far for me. First touch, not as good. Lacey, my MOM. Steph Milek, Rawlinson, yes, strong candidate. Duncan Conry, DKE. Paul Huskerson, Rawlinson. Malcolm Shearston, Wootton. Chris Gosling. I don't think I can pick one. No standouts for me, but no poor performances. Okay, one of the topics we're picking up on tonight, Leigh. Style over substance. Substance over style. And I knew this would stir up a bit of a hornet's nest. And clearly there is a blend. So all those that said, we need both, okay, absolutely. But it's always a blend to get where you need to get to, isn't it? And that debate, I think, has come into focus more as a result of Conor Rawlinson coming into the back line, Dion Kelly-Evans coming into the back line, and Harry Arter coming in these last three games. And undoubtedly, there's a bit more edge to Notts now. You know, we have a few skirmishes, don't we? Connell Rawlinson, I don't know what the phrase is, matched up with Quigley when he came on, didn't he? DKE does what he always does. And Arter brings a bit of steel, a little bit of gamesmanship, all of that, all of those sorts of things. And I was interested that BBC Radio Nottingham highlighted a quote from Nigel Clough. Comes from a family that knows a thing or two about football. And after Mansfield's midweek performance, he says, "I don't care about the performance at all. The result is all that matters." So we got 9 games to go. What do you think of this debate? Style over substance, substance over style. Where are you on it?
Listen, I think if you look at all the best teams, if we take it to the very elite, I think there are always players in the team who I would say don't really command the headlines, but their importance to their respective teams is qualified by, their contribution during the games in terms of the hard work and the stuff that nobody really notices, really. And obviously I support Liverpool. You've got the likes of Jordan Henderson. A lot of people say Jordan Henderson's not good enough for England, or, you put him in that Liverpool midfield alongside Thiago, who's a naturally lovely, beautiful footballer. But Jordan gets through a hell of a lot of hard work. And, Liverpool couldn't be the team that they are. And the same with Manchester City and Rodri and Fernandinho and players like that. They couldn't be the teams they are without having those players in there. You need those gritty types of character. So I think that you do have to have a blend so that your star players, because you want to win the ball back to give to your star players. That's how it works. So, if we look at Notts, for instance, you've got Roberts, really good player on the eye. Rodriguez, another beautiful player to watch. The likes of Aaron Nemain, players like that. You need players behind them who are capable of grafting, winning the ball back, and then just giving it to them. And that's why I say like the likes of Harry Arter are so important. If you watched him Saturday, his positional sense in terms of in the defensive field was very, very good. Very rare that you saw him cross the halfway line, and he just brings that little bit of bite and a bit of ugliness to the midfield. And he what I thought Harry did on Saturday is a very good lesson for any young players or any young people who want to go and play the game professionally. When he spots a pass, he plays it. He doesn't overcomplicate things. And he's got a bit of bite about him as well. It's the same with Connell Rawlinson and Dion Kelly-Evans. So those players who are going to go into a game, they're going to give you 100%. They're going to rattle into the tackles. They're going to let the opposition team know that they're in a game. Whereas I think if you look at earlier on in the season, perhaps sometimes Notts away from home have been too nice to play against. But the team, and certainly in the last 3 games, seems to have the kind of right blend of characters. We're not overly reliant on style. And we've not got too many players who are all substance and no style. So I think what Ian Birchnell has done is looked at it. And I think if you look at, I'll do the comparison between Dion and Joel Taylor. For me, Joel Taylor's technically a very, very good footballer. But I think what separates him from Dion is that Dion's got that mentality. He wants to block crosses. He wants to get tackles in. And that's perhaps why we've not seen Joel, because I think sometimes Joel can cruise through games a little bit too easily and doesn't really show that desire to want to go and stop crosses and do defending. Going forward, yeah, lovely. But you especially in these last few games of the season, you're going to need more than that. So, that sort of Dion and Joel Taylor comparison, I think we're probably seeing why Dion is currently in the team, because he gives you that intensity, he gives you that aggression, he gives you that ferocity in the tackles. Same with Connell Rawlinson. He doesn't like being beaten by anybody. He's great header of the ball, fierce tackler, and like you say, he doesn't mind getting involved in the odd skirmish either. So I think those 3 players have sort of complemented the sort of flair players that we have got in the side. I mean, I wouldn't actually count Carl Wootton as a flair player, because if you watch him, the amount of hard work he does for the team in terms of pressing the opposition, not to mention the quality he shows defending set pieces. I mean, there was 3 or 4 headers at the weekend that he cleared. And again, he's got that sort of that bite about him. He's got that aggression about him, and I think you are going to need that. You're going to need that for these last remaining 8 games, 9 games, or whatever we've got left to go. So yeah, I think in answer to your question, you need a blend. You can't have either a team full of stylish players and you can't have a team full of hard workers and doggedness, because where's your creativity, where's your ingenuity going to come from? And I think that's what we're slowly seeing, or what we've seen with this Notts team in the last 3 weeks.
Plenty of comments coming in. Gary Wardle, excuse me. Barrow, Harrogate, Sutton, Hartlepool all had more fight than style. Steph Milek, our Worthing Sussex-based Magpie, a massive dollop of substance with a drizzle of style on top. Inspector 71, style totally and utterly irrelevant in this division. Effective football. Getting out of this division, the only consideration. Chris Gosling, I think our away performances need to be solid and effective, like the Woking away game. I'd still want to see an element of style in the remaining games at Meadow Lane, given some of the opponents that we have. Dale Pikett, style at home and substance away from home. Gary Wardle, we can be stylish against the whipping boys, but fighters against contenders. Jurgen Halligan, good to see Jim O'Brien back. We'll come on to that in a little bit. Chris Gosling, I think soon we may see IB revert back to a 4-2-3-1 to bring Roberts back into the fold, with Arter and Palmer anchoring. RM says good teams of the past had strong players in midfield. Nobby Stiles, Billy Bremner, Patrick Vieira, etc. Duncan Comrie, style or substance doesn't matter if you're not taking the chances you're creating. I think then we're going into, let's have a look. Chris Gosling, think he'll stick to 5 Saturday though, Matt. Plus Roberts not even on the bench. I assume he's pulled out the England C squad. And then we're going on to more individual players. It's an interesting stat. Hang on, I wrote it down earlier. Sorry, I'm not quite with it tonight. When we talk about, and 2 or 3 of you there have mentioned about the need for a little bit more, potentially on that sliding scale, substance away from home. So before Dagenham, we'd only won 5 away in the league out of 15, which I think we'd all agree, for where we want to be, isn't a good haul. So Dagenham is, other than Grimsby, is the only promotion playoff chasing team we have won away at this season. Wrexham, Halifax, Boreham Wood, Bromley, Stockport, Chesterfield, Solihull. Didn't win at any of them. And that, to an extent, was a side that was patched together. So whether it is by design, whether it is by judgment, I kind of think that I like the blend we've got at the minute. And the games against Boreham Wood and against Chesterfield. I know some of you were a bit disappointed with Chesterfield Saturday. For me, I enjoy watching those games. They're competitive. They're compelling. They're close. For me, they're kind of like proper football matches. And I think if you're going to get promoted or win a title, you're involved in a lot of them. And it's the ones you nick that ultimately, or how many of those you nick, that ultimately shape where you end up in the season. And I would think these 2 next trips, Leigh, I think they're going to be pretty demanding, if I'm honest. And I think we're going to find out, although I feel confident about them in the light of the past 7 days, but I do think we are going to need a lot of substance at Southend Saturday and a lot of substance at Torquay the following week.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, it's interesting you just list those teams there who we've not beaten. I mean, if I go back to the Halifax game earlier on this season, that was a prime example, I think, of what we're discussing about style over substance. Leading 2-0 against 10 men, and we just weren't streetwise that night. I mean, once they got the goal back at 2-1, really, we should have seen that game through. I mean, that's 3 points that were totally chucked away. I mean, even now, I'm still baffled as to how we lost it. But I remember the last goal, I think it was, and this is an example what I mean about just doing the ugly side of the game. I think when they counter-attacked down the middle of the pitch, Eli Sam was giving chase, and I was nudging Nick Richardson in the press box. He had a comment. He said he needs to bring him down here. He just needs to stick out a leg and just bring him down because we were being counter-attacked. And he just let the kid go. And then, of course, they move it about a couple of passes later. And the next thing you know, it's in the back of the net. And that's what I mean when I'm talking about just being clever and being smart. Because in that occasion, you take the yellow card. You've got 2 minutes to go or whatever. Okay, you're disappointed that you've thrown away a 2-0 lead against 10 men. You get out of there with a point. And, if you're bringing somebody down at that stage of the game, you get everybody behind the ball, you defend the free kick, which it would have been about 35 yards from goal. But it's those kind of examples, what I'm talking about in terms of playing smartly, doing the dirty side of the game, the ugly side of the game, and just being a bit cute about stuff. But I agree. I think Torquay and Southend will be difficult games. Southend have improved immeasurably under Kevin Mayer since he's come in. I know they had another bad result at the weekend, didn't they, against Yeovil? But
Dagenham was the real surprise one, wasn't it? Because Dagenham were 3 up at half time, I think, midweek game, and that's relatively speaking a local derby there.
Yeah, and then obviously Torquay and Gary, we know what Gary Johnson's like. He's a very wily, experienced manager. I mean, I know they had a dreadful start, but because they lost a lot of players, didn't they, last summer, and they brought a fair few in, but they seem to be on a decent run. I think the playoffs are going to be beyond them this season, but that will be a difficult trip down there. So I just think that the team that Notts have got at the minute, as you've just rightly touched upon, I do think it has got the sort of right blend that you need, that sort of aggression matched with a sprinkling of flair in the likes of Rodriguez. And obviously if Callum Roberts comes back at the weekend, and you've got him to come back into the team as well. So I think, and when you look at the wing backs as well, Jaden Richardson, I think, is a really clever flair player at fullback, and Dion, as much as we talk about his aggression, he's actually on Saturday could have bagged himself a goal in the first half, and I don't think he's a slouch when it comes to going forward, didn't he? I mean, he created a good chance in the second half when he got to the byline. I think the shot from Vincent, I think it was blocked, wasn't it? So they will be difficult games, but if I look at the performances of the last 3 games, I thought we perhaps edged the second half against Chesterfield. Had to dig in against Dagenham to get the result there, and I thought against Boreham Wood we were by far the better team. So you bunch all those 3 performances together, you'd say we're in good health at the moment. And Saturday against Chesterfield was a really tough game because they've got some really good players. The boy who played for them in the middle of the park, Sadhu Khan, I really like him. He's a really good player. Good engine, can dig in, can play a bit, and it was a good result, I think, in the end. But yeah, it's I just think with the way we're playing at the moment, we seem to be picking up again. We seem to be showing that sort of form that indicates that we look as if we could be about to go on a very, very good run.
And I think also, I know you're close with Conor Rawlinson, and I think he has probably been over these 3 games alongside Arter, the most influential player we've had, most called upon player that we've had. This run of 3 games has been done against the backdrop of Kel Roberts. The stat about Kyle Cameron: whenever Kyle didn't play, we lost. Whenever Kyle played, we got a result, and that's been well and truly put to bed. No one is saying right now we're missing Kyle Cameron. The last 3 games, Connell has come in and done an excellent job, having had very limited game time for most of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I love Connor. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he could play Football League. He's got good pace. He's good. He's good in the air. He's probably free of cold as well. But what Connell's doing right now doesn't surprise me, because that first season when we were in the National League and we looked like we were going to go on and steal the title from Barrow, and then COVID hit. Connell and Alex Lacey were the central defensive partnership, and they were excellent. We ended when the season was halted, we had the best defensive record in the league, and we had the best goal scoring record in the league. So those two players at the back, they've known each other for a long time. They've been at the club now, knocking on nearly three full seasons. They'll know each other's game inside out. Alex Lacey is very much a Rolls Royce of a centre half, but those two have done it before. They've been in this situation before, and I think that experience will certainly help Notts going forward. I think looking back, and when that playoff final against Harrogate, I think we were all really surprised, weren't we, when Ben Turner ended up playing that game, and Connell, if you remember, was on the bench, wasn't he? So I think it was Ben Turner and Alex Lacey who started that game. And that was a surprise because Connell, but I think he picked up an injury if I remember rightly. That's why he didn't play. And then Ben Turner had a fantastic game in the semi-final against Barnet. He was brilliant. So you sort of thought, well, it would have been very hard to sort of drop Ben on the back of that performance. But if with hindsight, perhaps really Connell should have probably played alongside Alex in that game. But yeah, I think he's just a tough as teak defender. He just loves defending. You may not get the culture and style as what we perhaps expect of Carl Cameron, but what he gives you in return is that desire. He wants to go and head the ball. Doesn't like get beaten in the air. He wants to be first to everything. He'll rattle into the challenges. Excuse me. And I think he's an excellent centre half, and it just goes to show you the strength and depth in that area. Because if you look at all the centre halves, Richard Brinley's had an excellent season. Carl Cameron's been excellent. Obviously, Connell, Alex Lacey's had his fitness problems, but he's come back in and he just slots seamlessly in. So you've got really 4 really good centre halves, and that's not even. We're not even mentioning Adam Chickson there yet, who's been unbelievable this season. So we've got those really good centre halves, and they all bring different skill sets. They all bring different skill sets. But in terms of Connell, yeah, he's a proper old school defender in every sense of the word.
Ian Birchall has asked, so we'll ask you, any news on Kyle's injury latest, potential return? I think you asked the manager about it at the weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, I asked Ian after the game. I think he's going to be out a bit longer. I think they said there was going to be 3 to 4 weeks extra on top of what he's already been out with. So, I mean, the press conference is on Wednesday, so we'll probably find out a little bit more. But we're entering sort of. I know the season finishes May the 15th, but if that's another 3 to 4 weeks, that could mean he might be sweating before the end of the. Probably won't see him before the end of the season, by the sounds of it. But obviously, we'll find out more on Wednesday.
Okay. Southend. So beating them down here. They've had, I think it's fair to say, a pretty tough baptism in the National League, and they have been one of those teams to drop out of the league that finds it very difficult to come to terms. So, good friend of mine, Stan Collingmore's gone in there with some form of football consultancy advisory role, changed the manager, changed personnel around a little bit. They've slipped back in the last 2 or 3 games, but they're not necessarily, well, they're not now looking over their shoulder at dropping out of the league, which I think was a concern. We had Matt from The Athletic on, journalist, and that was a concern earlier in the season. Long time since we've been to Southend. I'm wagering you won't have been to Southend with Notts, will you?
No, I went there with Lincoln many a time.
Yeah.
But no, this will be my first time with Notts.
What sort of game do we expect there? Are we expecting Notts to have the balance of possession? Are we expecting Notts to be put on the defensive?
Well, I'm just looking at their squad now. I mean, they've got some experienced campaigners in there. James Dunn, obviously, was at Cambridge United. and obviously Noor Hussein's gone in there as well, hasn't he?
Noor, yes, I was about to say Noor is in there. Yes,
and by all accounts is doing quite well. I think looking at the squad, I mean, they do have I'd say some impressive centre forwards. I mean, Simon Akinola, Reece Murphy. You know, Reece obviously was among the top goal scorers in the league last year with Yeovil. Very, very good player at this level. Akinola was somebody who I thought would have suited Notts. So I do think it'll be a tough game. I wonder though, because Southend had been on such a good run, you wondered whether they were going to be one of those having a late charge to the playoffs. But I think recent results have probably indicated that they're probably perhaps not there at the moment, are they? They've slipped away with it because they were closing in on the top seven, weren't they? But then they've lost 3 out of the last 5. So, but I still think that they'll want to put on a show. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I really don't. If you look at the caliber of players in the squad, I think Notts will be in for a tough afternoon. I think I've been to Roots Hall before. The crowd are very vocal there. But I think it's the case of what kind of game we're expecting. I think Notts will go there and try and play like we expect them to try and control the game via possession. But there will be elements and there will be times where they're going to have to dig in, such as dagging them away. I don't think it'll be a straightforward 3-pointer. I think it'll be quite even because they've got a decent squad there, and they seem to have got a bit of confidence again. I think it all depends on how Notts are in terms of their battling characteristics. Can they gain a foothold in the match early on? First goal will be very important. But I still think that Notts, even without Roberts, have still got enough in the team to go there and get all 3 points for sure. You know, they did that they're excellent against Boreham Wood, who are one of the best and one of the most organised teams in the league, and they created a stack of chances that night. And again, I think if there's only one element of concern I have about Notts, it's this inability to really kill teams off and really put them to the sword. If you think back to that game against Boreham Wood, you know, they were absolutely fantastic for the first 45 minutes. Could have been 2 or 3-0. Only ended up taking a 1-goal lead into half time. And you sort of wondering, is it going to be one of those where they're going to get 1 chance or 2 chances? But it's similar actually to the game that we had at their place when we dominated the ball for the first 45 minutes. I think they scored with their only shooting target that night, which was, I think it was Tyrone Marsh who scored. And that's probably my only complaint, really. I mean, you go back to it on Saturday. You know, Wootton's chance late on in that game. I mean, even now, I still watch it, and every time I think the net's going to bulge, and it just seemed one of those where he got too good of a connection on the ball. I think if it had scuffed off the side of his head or his hip, he would have had a tap in. He probably would have gone in. But I hope he doesn't beat himself up about that too much because he had an excellent game. But yeah, it's just that, you know, we have patches in games where I think we're excellent and we're really on top and we're creating chances, but we just can't seem to get that sort of 2 or 3 goal cushion that we perhaps deserve through the quality of our play. So if you're asking me about improvements and what we could probably do better towards the end of the season, that's something I think that we could get better at. And hopefully it starts on Saturday at Southend.
But part of me, Leigh, thinks that this whole we dominate teams. If we take our chances, we're 3 up at half time. Once we do that, we'll be fine and we'll win the league. For me, it's Fantasy Island stuff. Because I don't see any team going 3 up at half time because they deserve to and score 3 week in. I don't think it happens. I really don't think it happens. And it's all very well people saying, oh, yeah, well, once we take the chances, we'll smash teams. Okay, we beat Barnet very comfortably on the opening day of the season. We beat Barnet very comfortably down here. Kings Lynn, we bunged a few in. But I just think so many more higher percentage of games in this division are going to be like Dagenham, are going to be like Boreham Wood, are going to be like Chesterfield. Because, for me, they're far better results, those three, than Barnet 5-0 or whatever. And as I say, whether it's by design, judgment, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Same team, no changes. We went through earlier in the season, didn't we? A squad rotation system and all the rest of it. Great result. Bang. The manager came out after the game. It's up to the others to try and get the shirts off those guys. And for me, we've just become, I think, more functional and effective. And okay, it's a small cross sample because it's 3 games in 7 days. But for me, the balance, because football's the sum of the parts, not the individuals. On the face of it, with Kel Roberts not playing, we shouldn't get as many points. If Ruben's not playing, we shouldn't. But it's the sum of the parts, isn't it? And I just wonder whether we've got to a point with a blend now that is just a little more suited to the rigours and the demands of the National League. We mentioned earlier, like Connell, and they brought Quigley on, didn't they? Do you remember?
Yeah.
A few minutes later, there's a dust-up between the two of them. Look, I only played rubbish semi-pro 30, 40 years ago. I'm telling you, Quigley's then, after Connell's done that, I'm telling you, slightly different mentality from Quigley. You know what I mean? If a centre forward never gets fouled in a game, he loves it. He loves it. Yeah. And you got Kelly Evans wandering around, the assassin that he is. I like that sort of thing. I like that sort of thing. And we can all talk about being aesthetically pleasing, but your team, Liverpool, always down the years in their most successful teams, there's been an enforcer or two in there.
Oh yeah, Souness, McMahon, hard players. Steven Gerrard, of course, absolutely loved flying into the tackles, didn't he? So every team's got. I mean, going back to Dion, I mean, that tackle, I don't know if anybody can remember, it was in the second half when Chesterfield had done a counter attack, and I think Khan had skipped through, and Dion absolutely crunched him. And the referee did see it and he got a booking for it. But
the referee, I actually didn't think was that bad. I think it's just become too easy for us to slaughter the refs. I didn't think he was that bad. I mean, it was so late, wasn't he? The refs did well to see it, to be fair.
Yeah,
we're all
but
it's the field, and then Leon's come in and he whack on the bloke.
But you're right. It's those sort of tackles. If you lay, I mean, that's the age-old adage, isn't it? I mean, I've known managers in the past whose instruction would be, I mean, and some of them are actually quite clever. They, in fact, we'll use Jack Grealish as an example, and it's funny because Sean Derry was at the game at the weekend. I remember speaking to Sean about Jack Grealish when he was here, and if you remember, there was a really poor challenge on him against Stevenage away. But Sean was saying, this shouldn't be nothing new, because what teams are doing, and they're being clever about it, is they'll send one person to go and smash him. Then it'll swap. It'll be somebody else's job to go and smash him. And in the end, Grealish ended up getting taken off. I know Notts, I think, won that game 1-0, didn't they? It was a real hard-fought win. But that just goes to show you. But in that game, Jack didn't really want the ball because he knew what was coming. He knew he was going to get booted up into the air. And sometimes, like you say, it makes players think. I remember speaking to Steve Thompson. He obviously used to manage Notts and was obviously at Lincoln. And there used to be, I can't remember which centre forward it was. Oh, no, actually, I'll tell you it was Chris Sutton. I remember speaking to Chris Sutton at Lincoln. They were saying, which was the best centre-half you played against? And he said, Martin Keown. He said, because when I used to get the ball to the back of me, he said, I used to count in my head. And he'd go 1, 2, and then that'd be it. Keown would be either through the back of him or, giving him a bloody hard time. He said he literally used to count. He said it used to be 1 or 2 seconds. I used to get the ball and he'd go 1, 2, and then there you go. There he is. And he said he was just a horrible centre-half to play against. But I think you do need that sometimes. I mean, the game's advanced brilliantly over the years, and we fall in love with these technical players who, full of flair, speed, individual ability, tricks, flicks, whatever. Yeah, but I still think there's room in the game for those, the players who perhaps don't command the headline writers' attention somewhat, but give you that bit of bite, bit of edge, bit of spite in there. And, it does make for good games because, like you say, Joe Quigley and Conor Rawlinson going at it in a game at the game on Saturday just also gets the crowd going as well, doesn't it? A good tackle gets the crowd going.
Ian Birchinall, congratulations to him. Southend is ground number 100 league and ex-league grounds for me. A good one-liner from Chris Gosling. Do you get a telegram for the Queen for that, Ian? There's various Ian Birchinall. Leigh, lack of goals cost us in a few games. Wealdstone away, Halifax home, Yeovil home, Chesterfield Saturday, 8 points there, and that puts us second. I'm not going to do it, Ian, but I'm sure I could save us 25 points if we hadn't conceded goals all over the place as well. Nigel Cameron, Wootton is meant to score goals, not defend set pieces. We'll come on to Kyle in a minute. Dale Pikett, we have dropped 22 points from a winning position this season. Okay. I don't know whether you've done it, Dale. From a losing position, yeah. Give me the flip side to that. So from a losing position, how many points have we gained? Okay, and then let's perhaps balance the two out. Chris Gosling, we do miss too many chances in key moments of big games, though. Paul, he says, Duncan Comrie, here's a name from the past. I don't know if you can still see me. I seem to have suddenly lost my screen here.
No, I can still see you.
Right, okay, well, I've lost everything. I'll keep going. So I presume that we're still all on. Sorry, I got a bit thrown by that. Where are we? What was I talking about?
Paul Harding.
Paul Harding. We're back. Sorry about that. Yeah. Paul Harding. Now, there is a name, Duncan Comrie. Yeah. Oh, dear me. He was teak tough, wasn't he? Max Seth echoes your point, Leigh. A tough tackle gets the crowd going. Rawlinson did one in the second half on Saturday. It was a brilliant tackle, and the crowd got behind the lads even more. Gary Wardle, the insistence on reinventing the wheel with style is our doing. Alan Cotty, disagree, Paul. The ref was dreadful. As one of many examples, how about the free kick given against Carl near the end for high foot? Wasn't even up to the waist. Gave Chesterfield the last attack of the game.
He should have sent Jeff King off, though, actually. I think in the referee on Saturday, I think Jeff King should have had a second yellow card, should have been off. I think it was a coming together with Ruben Rodriguez, I think it was, in the second half. It was nailed on second yellow card, but he bottled it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think blaming the ref is, I'm not saying they're brilliant, but then again, they should be worse than the Football League. Let's be honest, we're not good enough to be in the Football League. Our players were already disgraced the year we went down. One of the consequences of not being in the Football League is, as we know, refs aren't going to be as good. I just think it's a bit too easy. I don't think refs in any way, shape or form are biased. I think to an extent, the good decisions you get are counterbalanced by the others that go your way, and vice versa. Honestly, I didn't think the ref was that bad Saturday. I think we've had a lot worse. Right. Kyle Wootton. Now, I know you're a big fan of Kyle. Me too. It is a conundrum for you. Why is it that all the people who slaughter Kyle Wootton and say he's rubbish and useless are the ones who defend Ian Birchinall totally, completely and utterly? And if we don't get promoted, it's because it's a stronger division. We're doing better this year than last year because it's a harder division. All complete rubbish. I would respectfully suggest to those people, we get these battle lines drawn because Kyle Wootton was bought by Neil Ardley. And I really do not get this obsession between Neil and Ian. Neil left, right? He ain't coming back. He's doing a good job with Solihull. Fair play to him. Ian is our head coach. He's the best chance we've got of getting promoted this season. But people draw these ridiculous lines to justify their own arguments. I would respectfully suggest that without Kyle Wootton, we wouldn't be in the playoffs this season.
No, I saw some comments on social media, and to be honest, I try not to use social media as a barometer because I've got to be honest, I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with Twitter. If I could come off it, I would. But obviously, you have to be on there to obviously promote your stories, and you're obviously there to, drive people to your website and drive traffic, etc. But I hate it. I absolutely hate Twitter because there is never ever middle ground. You have, like you say, people draw their battle lines, and I don't know what it is. People cannot accept that other people may have a different point of view to them, and I've never seen a conversation yet on Twitter where someone goes, actually, you've made a good point there. It's like, no, sorry, you're wrong. Well, that's not conducive to good debate, is it? And that doesn't just apply to football. It applies to politics. It applies to music, etc. Whatever. There is never ever middle ground. It seems to me like once people get on social media, it's almost like they're afraid of saying, of ceding a bit of ground in a debate and actually saying, do you know what? But actually, it makes you a stronger character. If you can sit and say, this is my point of view, I don't agree with you, but actually, there's some parts in there that you know is going to make me change the way I think a little bit, and that's not a weakness. It's actually a strength of character. But Twitter now has become so polarized, and we're getting we've had it with Notts players in the last 5 or 6 years. There are a lot of people who didn't like Mitch Rose. And Mitch, whatever you think about him as a football and what he lacked, he was part of a team that reached the playoff final, the National League playoff final. And people were saying when we bought Jake Reeves, we needed to get rid of Mitch. We bought Jake Reeves in, and then if you remember rightly, there was this big debate on Twitter about Jake Reeves. He's rubbish, and then everyone was saying, "Well, you know what? We missed Mitch Rose." So, and it's the same. It's the same I see with Kyle Wootton at times. I think Kyle Wootton is a fantastic centre forward at this level. I've spoken to heads of recruitment at a couple of other clubs in the National League, and they all tell me and they all think that he is the best centre forward in the league, which you have to say. And these are heads of recruitment at clubs that are up there. They're not like down at the bottom, but they feel that Kyle Wootton is the best striker in the league. And you would say, looking at the teams that have been to watch him, Portsmouth being one, I mean, they keep watching him. That's not by fluke. It's not, Kyle has earned that opportunity. His goals to game ratio, I think, over the course of the 3 seasons is absolutely outstanding. I think he's probably going to end the season with 20 goals. I think he's on 19 league and cup goals this season. So he's probably going to bag 20, which would be the first time he's done it. I think he ended the season last year with 18, 19. That was 17 the season before. So, I mean, they're phenomenal numbers, and it's consistent as well. And after he missed the chance on Saturday, predictably, you get it, well, my nan could have stuck that away. And you look at it and you go, well, how has he missed from there? But you know what? Strikers miss chances. It happens. Get over it. He took the penalty really well. I think the way he's developed, I think certainly his game with his back to goal has improved immeasurably. I sometimes, and I still feel, doesn't get the benefit of the doubt from referees. If there's one thing that I'd like to see him do, I know Ian Birchnell said he's like him to be more selfish, but I think he is such an athlete and such a strong competitor. I'd like to see him bully centre halves more. I don't think he does that enough, and he's got the capability to do it. I think he's a strong enough player to do it. He's got a good physique. I think he's a wonderful centre forward. I don't think he'll be here next season. I really don't. I think he will go and play either League One or top end League Two. Club will take him, and he will be a big miss. How? Because you've got to go out and replace those goals. And as we've seen, when we lost Christian Dennis after the first season and he went to St Mirren, we struggled to find a centre forward. We brought in Innie F. Young, didn't work. You know, there's never ever, you've got to enjoy him while he's here, and I think he is, and he's improved immeasurably. And I know Ian's worked with him on the training ground in terms of his movement inside the area. I think he will be a very good League Two, League One player. I think, and it's no coincidence why these players these teams are coming to watch him, because he's just a fantastic centre forward. I mean, he gets into good positions. His link-up plays good. He gives you something defending set pieces. He's good in the air. And to be honest, he's got good feet as well. I mean, there was a pirouette that he did in the game on Saturday. You know, for someone of his size, 6'3", 6'4", he is a good centre forward, and I think he won't be here next season. And I don't think that's anything to do with the fact that he's not happy at Notts, because I know he loves Notts County, but I just think there will be somebody who'll come in and take a punt and offer him the kind of money that we can't afford on the back of, and that will be on the back of the fact that he has scored 17, 18, and probably going to end up with 20 goals this season. And do you know what? I can't blame him. I think he's a great lad. He's a great character, lovely fella, and whatever happens, whether we go up or go down, I think if he does leave, and when he does leave, which I fully expect him to, you know, he should go with every fan's best wishes, because he has been an unbelievable servant. You know, since joining the club from Scunthorpe, he's just a great professional.
Lots of comments coming in on the debate. Just one point to tidy up. Thank you to Dale Pikett. He's got his Statos almanac out. Paul, we have gained 19 points this season from a losing position. So when we've been losing, we've ended up gaining 19 points. When we've been winning, we've lost 22 points. So I guess if you are looking at, you know, the litmus test of winning a championship, which I think we all accept that is what we have to be, then you're probably looking at trying to move that needle to dropping, let's say, 10 points from winning positions and moving the needle to 30 points from losing positions. So it's broadly level, slightly disadvantageous, but yeah, interesting. Jurgen Halligan, big fan of Kyle. Hold-up play is brilliant and defends well from set pieces. 18 goals this season as well. Gary Wardle, it's a little rich of some to expect. Wootton to be defending 1 minute, then clinical up front the next. Jurgen adds, Leigh should have scored from the header. It came really quick to Wootton. Duncan Comrie, it's a shame excuse me, that Woots is going to leave on a free after Notts invested in him and helped develop his game, but should have sorted a contract out with him last season. Ian Birchinall, he will go with my best wishes if he does leave, as long as it's not to Mansfield. Martin Hearson, Kyle's all-round play has been fantastic all season. Does so much off the ball, but do wish we played with two up front. Right. I was hoping someone would bring that point up rather than me. And I think one of the huge problems that you have, and the question I would ask a lot of people who all say we want the goal poacher, are you going to drop Ruben Rodriguez? Thoughts, please? Because the only way you get a goal poacher playing alongside is dropping Ruben Rodriguez. It's the only way you do it. Ruben at the minute slots in behind, has a roving role, right? You can't play two up front and Ruben having a roving role, or it's very, very, very difficult. The reality is the system that Ian plays for 95% of the season is one player up front. Now, Kyle is a lot of things. He's not a 100-metre sprinter. So every defender knows that ball is going to come up to Kyle. He's going to hold it. He's going to lay it off, and then we're going to move up. We don't, with the possible exception of Jaden, we don't get people running beyond the back four. We don't turn back fours. It's the way Ian plays. And that's not a criticism, far from it. We've won plenty of games doing it that way. So what you're asking Kyle to do is to do a ton of work on the halfway line before he gets anywhere near the goal. Now, as I say, if you're going to leave Ruben out, you can have your goal poacher. But other than that, I find it very difficult how you can achieve that. So what you're then asking Kyle to do is to be a brilliant hold-up man, ball coming in, halfway line, chest, nod, bring other people into play, then get down the pitch, right, and score a goal. And as has been pointed out, we bring back 11 players for all our set pieces. He's back in there heading the ball out. So the work he does, is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I don't think we've got another player in the club that could possibly do 50% of what Kyle does, largely on his own. And if he was a more lazier type of player, he wouldn't do it. But he takes it all on the chin, and he does it for the team, and he still gets a highly respectable goal return. That's my views on it, anyway. Leigh?
I fully agree. I mean, the way the team is set up, like you say, Ruben doesn't really play as Kyle's strike partner. He plays a more withdrawn role, doesn't he? Because he likes. Let's be honest. I mean, Ruben's very good in the air. I think Ruben's really good in the air, but Ruben likes to get on the ball and likes to make things happen. So yeah, you're right. Kyle does invariably lead the line on his own, and that, to be honest, is perhaps one of the hardest, if not the hardest job in football.
At home as well as away. This is not just away from home. This is at home as well.
Yeah, because you're obviously playing up front on your own, and you're being marked by 2 centre halves, or if teams are playing 5 across the back, 3 centre halves. So he gets through a phenomenal amount of work. So, a lot of target men don't really have. There's not many target men I can think throughout history who have had unbelievable goal returns, because actually they're in the team because teams play off them and get them up off the pitch, like you just said. Kyle holds the ball up, lays it off, and then we go from there. But for Kyle to do that role and still come up with 18, 19 goals this season, ridiculous figures. It tells you what a good player he is. And I don't understand why he has these detractors, really, because he's such a great kid. He puts his bundle in every game. There are some games where it doesn't quite happen for him, but it's never through a lack of trying or not wanting to try a leg. He's just... Sometimes you get games where you perhaps don't get clear-cut chances, and that's not through any fault of his own. Sometimes the team as a whole has been poor, and sometimes you need your creative players to create chances for him. He can't do it all on his own. But I think he's a wonderful centre forward, and I bet if you asked a lot of centre forwards, centre halves in this league, who they don't like playing against, it would be him, because he's got everything. He can. I don't think he's particularly quick, but he can go in behind. We've seen him go in behind. We've seen him score goals when he's gone through on goal. He's good with his back to goal. I mean, he's got pretty much everything that you would want, really. I mean, if he had blistering pace, you'd probably say he's championship, because that's what separates a lot of the players, stops players from going up to the elite levels. Is the game's so quick that you need that speed and pace, and that's probably what would stop him from getting to the championship. But I think he's just I don't understand it. I think he's a fantastic centre forward. I mean, this club. I mean, I remember we've had some centre forwards, who have been major disappointments. Remember, we signed Isle McLeod for 125 grand from Crawley. And we all thought he was going to be an unbelievable player. I know, for as good as John Stead was for Notts County, I don't think he ever hit 20 goals or got close to 20 goals for Notts, not I can say. And he was a brilliant player for us, in terms of his quality of his link-up play. So, his numbers prove or tell us that he's an exceptional player. I mean, the stats speak for themselves. Yeah, there are games where he does miss chances, but which striker doesn't? It's par for the course in that job. So, listen, he won't be here next season. I'm absolutely caught by. I know somebody said, why didn't the club offer him a contract? I've got to be honest. If I was Carl's agent, I'd have been into his ear and said, listen, just keep sticking the goals away. He's in the Kyle was always in the position of power because his contract was 6 months left to run anyway. He'd scored 17 and then 18 goals in consecutive seasons. Agents will be aware of teams coming to watch him. So the message to the player will be, listen, get to the end of this season. If you can, you're already on 18, 19. Teams are coming to watch you. Somebody's going to put an offer on the table for you. See it out. And I mean, that's just how it goes. And I think if he was to stay, Notts would have to make him the highest paid player. He's currently not the highest earner at the football club. So I think they would have to significantly break the wage structure. I think if they were gonna keep him, because I just think somebody. I mean, if Portsmouth come in for him, for instance, and they've watched him numerous times, are not in a position to pay the same weekly amount as Portsmouth. Not a chance. So if you're the player, and this is what I'd like people to think, if you're in Carl's position and somebody throws a 2.5-year contract on the table at $4.5 grand a week, you're going to take it, aren't you? I mean, I know I would.
Look, absolutely. I mean, I've spoken to Kyle a few times. I mentioned this on previous shows, and he's a softly spoken, considerate. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, and you mentioned people like Israel McLeod. I think Israel made his mind up fairly on. The move wasn't going to work for him, and it kind of degenerated. And clearly, we did not see the best of Israel McLeod. I think what you can genuinely say about Kyle Wootton is that every week he does what is asked of him, and he puts a full, to use footballing parlance, he puts a full shift in,
Yeah.
And when we look back in time at his overall goals to games played, we'll all say, bloody hell, what a phenomenal strike record that guy had.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and this is not to say he doesn't look. If Carl Wootton moves, and I expect him to, it won't be because he doesn't love Notts County. I think we've got to make that abundantly clear. He's 24, 25. He's going to have ambitions of wanting to play in the Football League. We may not be able to give him that. There's still a chance that we could do, but we may not be able to give him that. So who are we to begrudge him the chance of A, earning more money, and B, being back in the Football League? It's not as if he's come in for one season, had scored 19 goals and then gone, do you know what? See you, lads, I'm off. He's stuck with us for 3 seasons. He's put his bundle in every single week. 17, 18, he's 19 goals already this season. You sort of say, do you know what? You've earned it, kid. Go, you've earned it. All the best. Thanks for everything that you've done for us. Wish you all the best. And I think and I'd like to think that's how Notts fans see it, because he doesn't strike me as one of being these football mercenaries in that respect, So he's a great kid, and I'm sure if the fans will have bumped into him in and around the stadium, he does love the club, but he will have his own career ambitions and goals. And listen, I'd love him to stay. I think he's a brilliant centre forward. I'd love for him to sign a new contract and be here for another 2 years, because we have to remember he's not even going to reach his peak yet. He's not even at his peak years yet, and he's already averaging, 1 goal every 3 point summit games, which is a great record. So listen, I just think with the contract situation, and if it was going to be sorted, I think it would be sorted by now. And I think his agent will just be, I know if I was his agent, that's what I'd be telling him.
Steph Milek echoes quite a few of our flock's view. If we don't go up and he decides to leave, he should go. I know I would. In Birchinall, my view too, Duncan. In Birchinall, when we're talking about the goal poacher, or how do you get a second striker to play up to play alongside Carl. Yes, I dropped Ruben on current form, echoed by one or two others. Gary Wardle, I wish Kyle well, but also hope he goes for both parties' sakes. Be interested to see how that pans out afterwards, I suspect. Chickson, Lacey, DKE, Brindley, Sam, all contracts run out June 22, says Cyprus Ref. I'm sure the whole retain list contracts thing is something that we will be debating further down the line. Okay. Kel Roberts, when we expecting him back, Leigh?
He was out ill, wasn't he? I asked that question at the weekend, not far away from what I can ascertain.
Yeah.
So I would make it probably maybe the weekend. I mean, he was at the game last Tuesday. So I'm not sure if he's pulled out the England C squad. I'm not sure about that. Obviously, Richard Brindley hasn't gone because of his arm.
Yeah.
But I'd presume he will be back imminently, is what I would say.
Yeah. It is interesting. We were kind of gloom and doom before going to Dagenham after the Stockport game. We are missing some of our most influential players, and will continue to do so. Because clearly Carl Cameron is going to be out for a good month more. Richard Brindley has obviously got the broken bone in his arm, so he's going to be out for a fair while. I don't know whether we'll get to a point where he can have one of these casts, or whether he's going to have to let nature take its course with the healing of the bone.
He's got an operation, hasn't he? That's what the club said.
He's not got pins and plates. He posted a picture of his X-ray. I did mine, and I've got all like a Meccano set in the arm. And when they put pins and plates in, they can normally get you back quicker.
Like the Terminator.
Hey, I tell you, I set all the aircraft scanners off with that one. I tell you. But the point I'm making is that we are missing hugely influential players, but that's brought in other players, and we're not. In the last 7 days, we have not missed Carl Cameron. We've not missed Cal Roberts. We've not missed Richard Brindley. We've got results. Which kind of gets back to that whole debating thing at the start of the show: style over substance, substance over style. Inevitably, with some of the players that's come in, we've had to compromise to an extent the way we play, haven't we? Because as you said earlier, Dion is not technically as good as other left backs this season. Connell Rawlinson is not a free-flowing, ball-playing centre half, but he has other assets, and those assets have got us points.
Yeah, and we've. I mean, it was interesting, because when we were talking about the style of play, I mean, it was clearly something that they tried or they had worked on in training. Was and bless him, he tried this pass numerous times throughout the game. Was Alex Lacey into Carl Wootton, and they clearly felt that they could get in behind the Chesterfield defence. And I watched Alex Lacey play this ball. He must have played it about 8 or 9 times with varying degrees of success, and the percentage of it was quite low. But it showed that they, weren't afraid to go direct at times, because they knew Chesterfield were going to try and press them high. So that ball into Kyle was obviously something that they'd worked on. Sometimes you do need to mix it up. There were a couple of times in the game where I think Adam Chickson played a long ball down the line. I've got no problem with that. I mean, listen, I love watching Notts this season. I think they're a great team to watch, particularly at home. Some of the football they play is an absolute delight, and you would say is far better than what you would usually expect to see at this level. I think they're really well coached. I think they all know their roles and responsibilities. You can see their positional sense, and then clearly the hard work that they put in on the training ground is paying off. You can see that with some of the performances, particularly at home this season. But I have no problem with the fact if if we've got the likes of Connolly and Dion, and we do need to mix it up a bit, then I'm all for it. Just gives the opposition something different to think about. And like you say, those players that have been brought in may not be as technically good as the ones that they have replaced, but they bring you other advantages. Bit more steel, bit more determination, bit more vigour. I mean, Richard Brindley is a brilliant, has adopted that centre-back role from having been moved to right-back brilliantly, but you wouldn't call him a commanding centre-half, would you? You wouldn't describe Richard Brindley as, a hulking centre-half who's going to win headers and diving tackles. In fact, he brings you something completely different, which is he's great at carrying the ball out of defence. He's very athletic. He's quick. So, put him up against Conor Rawlinson. Connor's more aggressive, strong in the air, loves a tackle. So I think, as we were saying right at the top of the show, they've got a very good blend at the moment. They've got that little bit of dogginess about them, and they've got a bit of flair in there as well.
Steph Milek says, I'll take Ruben's 12 goals. I think that's what he has, and assists. We have what we have. I'm massively up for a strong finish this season. And yeah, look, I absolutely agree. For me, goals has never been the problem for this team this season. It's conceding too many at the other end. And I know I'm probably in a minority. Yeah. The only point, just to clarify, that I'm making is that for a lot of people that want the poacher alongside Wootton, it's very, very difficult to, even if you get the poacher, not to have to change the composition and lineup of the team.
Well, I mean, you could do it because
Ruben's role would have to come massively under threat if you play Wootton up front with a poacher.
Well, if you remember rightly, I mean, we're probably going back to last season now. There was a time when I think Neil dropped him out of the team, and we were playing him central midfield, weren't we? He had a central midfield role. And I think I remember the infamous rant that I had on him. I was saying, what is he? Because he's not a central midfield player. And we weren't playing with a 10 at that stage. So how do you get him in the team and get the best out of him? And then, credit to Ian Birchnell, Ruben was left out of the team for a good while. And then he brought him back in, and he had that incredible run last season and played him as this almost like second striker with a free rolls. And to be honest, absolute masterstroke. Great, absolute masterstroke from Ian. Because it's a good position. So, yes, we could get a poacher into the team alongside Carl Wootton, but that would mean putting Ruben Rodriguez back into a more central midfield role. And to be honest, I don't think that suits him. I think his best position is what he's playing now, where he just floats in sort of between the defence and midfield, goes where he wants. He gets into the box. You see him on the left-hand side. You see him on the right-hand side. And I think sometimes you can get a bit guilty in this game of focusing on what you haven't got than what you have got. And what you've got there in Ruben is a wonderfully inventive player who's got 12 goals this season and a bag full of assists. So why would you want to break that up when it's working? Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, Ruben and Wootton and Cow have all got double figures this season. When was the last time that's ever happened? I can't remember. I think, what was it? Christian, Dennis and Kyle in the first season, they had double figures. And did Wes Thomas get 10 goals, 11 goals that season? So you look at those three, they're all firing at the moment. So I don't understand why you would want to change it for the sake of changing it when clearly we haven't struggled for goals this season. That's not been the problem, as you've just rightly touched upon, as I'm seeing in the comments here, that the biggest problem has been some of the goals we've conceded, and real soft ones of that as well. There've been games where I thought this season that the opposition hasn't had to work tremendously hard to score against Notts, particularly from set pieces. And I think that's probably the most annoying thing. is it you could probably accept a goals against record if you were getting unpicked by brilliant attacking or speculative long range efforts, but a lot of the goals we've conceded this year have been scrappy, horrible.
Yeah.
I remember the one against Solihull recently when Ryan Barnett scored, and that was a terrific goal. I think back to the Oval game, which was our own mistake. Halifax away in the 3-2 when we lost there. It was just bad goals to concede. But I take heart in the fact that we didn't really give up many chances against Boreham Wood. I know Chesterfield hit the post in the second half, and there was a chance for Asante, wasn't there, when it bounced off his shin and it went back to Slocum. But in terms of like being opened up, I don't see us being opened up. But I always have that like niggling thing in the back of my mind, like, is this team gonna be able to grit this through it and see it through and get through the 90 minutes and dig out the result?
Resolution.
Yeah. And that's probably been one of my biggest bugbears with Notts this season. I do feel that the opposition, as good as we are in patches some games, are never truly out of the game.
Here's one to finish with. It's a very good point from Chris Gosling, who's already dug me out together with Ian Birchnell, saying it's a sweeping generalisation to say all the people that, if you like, are huge advocates of our head coach tend to be the ones who are all putting the boot in on Kyle Wootton. And here's another sweeping generalisation, but it's a good point that Chris raises. Fair play to Sam Slocum. He's come in and been much better than he was earlier in the season. Be interesting to see if Yaros comes straight back in, as he was in excellent form before going off. I'm going to be because I'm in a crabby mood with me cold or whatever it is. I'm going to make another sweeping generalisation. All the people that call on everyone to support Notts County, to back Ian Birchnell, he's our head coach, are all the ones that say Sam Slocum useless, past it. We've got to get him out of the team. With him, he's a liability. I've never thought he's a liability. I think he's a decent keeper who would be in goal for 95% of all other teams in the National League. Here's one for you, Leigh, because I think it's a very good point that Chris mentions. Would you keep Sam Slocum in goal Saturday? Because obviously Yaros will be back from international duty.
See, this is the problem when you bring loan players in. You sometimes box yourself into a corner, because if you want to sort of strengthen those relations with the clubs that you're signing players from, if Notts County want to go and take another kid from Liverpool next season or wherever, the club, Liverpool, might look at him, well, he's not playing much. We've had this sort of agreement, but he's not playing much. We'll think, if you want to come sign one of ours, is he going to get regular game time? You don't want that sort of element of doubt. So I wouldn't be surprised, as much as harsh as I think it would be, because I think Sam's done a fine job in Yaros's absence. I probably am expecting, if I'm honest, to see Yaros back in goal at the weekend. And I don't think that's because it's a result of anything that Sam's done, because I think he's performed absolutely fine and he's proven his worth. And I think Notts County Stats did a comparison of all three goalkeepers, and he came out on top on everything, from what I recall, in terms of save percentage, clean sheets, etc.
Don't give me the stats malarkey. Stats are produced by people that want to produce them to demonstrate their own point. They're manipulated and engineered depending on the person who commissions the statistical researchers to the point that they want it to prove. That's it for me anyway.
But in going back to your question, I am expecting Yaros to be in goal. In saying that, the one loan signing I've been really disappointed with thus far has been Zach Brunt. I watched Zach play for Southend against Grimsby, and there was a lot of talk about him around the league, saying what a really good player he is, and he's come here and it just hasn't quite happened for him. And I don't know why that is, because he was brilliant for Southend. I think Southend were absolutely gutted to lose him. but he's come here and it's just not quite worked out for him thus far. And that's a shame because he is a really talented player, but we just don't seem to have found a position for him that sort of suits his qualities yet, I don't think. But it just goes to show you the sort of the problems that you have with these loan signings. Because Sheffield United, if we were going to sign another player for Sheffield United, well, we give you one of our best talents in Zach Brunt. You know, if we give you this one, how many games is he going to play? So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see what the team at the weekend. But I've got a funny feeling that Jaros will be back in the team. I may maybe prove wrong, but I just think if you're signing players from Liverpool, you know, it's like when we signed Jack Grealish. You know, if we'd not played Jack Grealish in the first 6 months of the season, he would have been recalled in that January, and then who knows what would have happened in that Great Escape season. Do you know what I mean? So difficult balancing act to get right.
Yeah, I think it is a very valid point that you make with loan signings, and we are, I think it's fair to say, reliant, or we look to use the loan market to its maximum possible potential. And you're quite right. I mean, personally, I think that Sam Slocum will be incredibly hard done by if he's left out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
But
I totally agree.
I agree with you. I think that Jaros will come straight back in. For me, the really brave decision, the brave decision is to leave Sam in. You know, but I think there are other factors at play here, like you've mentioned, that I think Jaros will end up coming in. But I mean, a quick one for all our guys out there. Jaros, you won't be able to spell his surname, will you? So Jaros or Sam, who would you play on Saturday? Let's just have a quick look and see who you would be picking. And Ian Bircham's had another pop at me. Give it up, Paul. Again, generalisation. I note, I'll have the last word because it's my show. I note that both of you, Ian and Mr. Gosling, do not say I am wrong. You just say it's a generalisation. Interesting that. Right, who are we going for? Let's have a look. Ian Birchinall, Sam for me. Gary Wardle, even I would play Sam this weekend. Jurgen Halligan says Jaros. Matt Seth, Slocum. Clean sheet on Tuesday and a good performance on Saturday. Cyprus ref, Slocum. That's interesting.
It's funny how perceptions change though, because last season Sam Slocum, we was all saying here, and I still, my opinion of Sam Slocum hasn't changed. I think he's a great goalkeeper.
Me too.
And I think he's better than this level, to be honest with you. But last year, everyone was saying, "Oh, we've got a really good goalkeeper," and then of course, you know, everyone there was a few dissenters saying, "Well, he's not good enough. He's past his sell-by date." Well, last year, everyone was saying how good he was. So, and I don't know. These it's almost like every season you have to try and find somebody whose form has absolutely nosedived for no reason whatsoever. I think Sam Slocum's a brilliant goalkeeper at this level.
Yeah, you see, that's very. It is very interesting. I am a little surprised. So if we're using our flock, so Maxeth, Slocum, Cyprus ref, Slocum, Duncan Comrie, a shirt should be earned, not written in a contract. I therefore presume he means Sam. Nick Too Tricky, Sam. Kay, Slocum. Alan Cotty, Sam. Shane Walker, Sam. Chris Gosling, I'd stick with Sam. Hey, are you just making a sweeping generalisation with the rest there, Chris? Dale Pikett, a different voice. Jaros. Stuart Edwards, Sam has the shirt and played well. Ian Birchnell, Sam is a great keeper for us. Max Seth, I think we've been spoiled by Pato. It's a different argument. Chris Gosling, Pato has distorted our vision of what a great National League keeper is. Fair point. Gary Wardle, Stu, Ed, that's right, but doesn't happen at not. Certain favourites always get the nod as the identity has to win the day. Agree is the best keeper, but ball at feet not the best. So you'd be saying there 80 to 90% would be going for some, which I find interesting. Because I'd like to believe, well, I'm sure, that the view of the people on this show is a much more accurate and reflective barometer. Because, like you, I just think Twitter has now just become a cesspit. And Facebook has it a lot of moments as well. And on both of those forums, you know, you would think Sam Slocum is 87, you know, in a Zimmer frame, you know, the way those people character assassinated. So I take the people on this show a much more accurate barometer, and it's very interesting. I'll be interested to see. I think, like you, Leigh, I'm pretty sure Yaros will start.
If Yaros had been on loan from, let's say, I don't know, Woking or something like that, he wouldn't play. But I just think if you've brought a goalkeeper in from Liverpool who's tipped to go and have a big future,
yeah,
you've sort of fenced yourself in a little bit, haven't you? I can't. Zach Brunt might be a little bit different because we've got players in there who are on form are playing better than him. So. You know, maybe that there is still time for that loan move to come good, because I do like Zach as a footballer. I think he's got a great future ahead of him, but for whatever reason, we just can't seem to find a place for him in the system or find a position that brings the best out of him, which is a shame because he is a really talented footballer.
Gary Wardle, should be Sam, but the club identity says Yaros. Ian Birchinall, players can prove you wrong. I thought Eli was poor at the start of the season, but worked his way into the team, and until he was ill, was undroppable. Chris Gosling, let's hope whoever plays in goal, they have little to do. I'm sure would echo that. I mean, I think most importantly, whoever plays in goal keeps a clean sheet. Then we've got at least a point. Will you be venturing down to Roots Hall this weekend, Leigh?
Yes, I will. I'll be going down to the Shrimpers. It's been a long time since I've been there, though. A very, very long time.
Are you going down Friday and out on the town in Faces or whatever the club is down there?
No, I'm getting too old for that caper now, mate. That's no. You'll find me tucked up in bed with a cup of tea at 10 o'clock and a nice book. Or a nice glass of red, should I say? That probably is probably more accurate.
You'll find me tucked up in bed about 5 minutes after this programme finishes. I think I'm going to bed. Leigh, thank you ever so much. It's been a good show tonight. We're all done in the best possible taste, as Kenny Everett would say, or used to say. And thank you to everyone. We have disagreements, we have different viewpoints, but it's all about being done in a respectful manner. And we can have a bit of banter, we can have the crack and all the rest of it. And as I say, it's a good place to be with Notts for me at the minute. Heck of a lot better than it was. If we think back to the quarter to 10 at Stockport, you know, things have come round significantly since then, and hope we can keep that going at Southend. Steph Milek will end on this because there are our flock. Don't forget, Leigh. How's the healthy eating going to get into the medium shirt? Hey, short of a 6-month COVID spell, there ain't no way you are getting into a medium shirt.
No, well, I have to say, people who know me tell me my diet is atrocious, and to put it into perspective, I had a Oreo cookie pudding tonight, and then I had.
Was it nice? Have you kept me some?
Oh, that's not the only one I had, and then I followed it up with a Cadbury's Whisper pudding. So that was So I won't be getting into a medium shirt anytime soon.
Duncan Comrie, hope you kick the cold into touch, Paul. It's not a cold, Duncan. It's a highly virulent, extremely dangerous virus that would have laid 99% of the rest of mankind low and unable to present the Magpie Circle podcast tonight. Okay, but I am going to bed. Thank you very much. Steph Milek is going for Southend 1, Notts County 3. I think we'll all take that. I don't think I'm trying to remember the last time I went to Southend. We're not seeing. I think it's over 20, 25 years, you know. So I'm going on the train. So that if many of you will be going down on the train, but I should be going down from Grantham, hot-footing it from King's Cross to Liverpool Street. And the little tip if you're going on the train, depending what time you're getting there, the nearest station is Prittlewell. Prittle, well, Prittlewell, which is the stop before you get into the main Southend station. I haven't got any food tips for you. I know several of you went in and had the pie mash and liquor at Brooks's Pie Mash ahead of Dagenham. So if you've got any food tips, let us know. Hopefully, I will be fighting fit come Saturday. Thank you very much, Leigh. Thanks for your time tonight.
No problem.
See you on Saturday, if not before. Thank you, one and all, the flock tonight. Look forward to that. Actually, it's good. I can have a week off now, can't I? Because there's no midweek this week. So we will see you all next Monday. Take care for now. Bye bye.
Good evening.